President Obama's decision to renew diplomatic ties with Cuba does not affect a long-standing travel ban for American tourists. That policy is likely, though, to change at some point. So what happens when these two countries, just 90 miles apart, open up tourism and trade? CBS News travel editor Peter Greenberg has been to Cuba 30 times. Peter joins us at the table.
And they haven't found out yet. No.
So what does it mean for the rest of us who have never been to Cuba even once?
It means the doors are about to open in a big way, but let's not get too excited because, as you said, the Trading with the Enemies Act is still on the books. It doesn't prohibit us from going to Cuba, but it prohibits us from spending U.S. dollars there. We still have the sanctions in place. There are no scheduled airline flights there. They have to get a lot of other things in place before we can actually do that.
And how long do you think that will take?
Probably 6 months, because the private sector, this came as no surprise to the private sector. In the travel industry, they've had contingency plans to go into Cuba for the last 10 years, whether it's a U.S. subsidiary of Coca-Cola or IBM or the cruise industry itself. They have contingency plans to turn those ships around and sail into those harbors. So they're ready to go. They're just waiting for the green light.
What are the laws now in terms of, I mean, you mentioned a couple of them, but in terms of, say, buying property in Cuba?
Well, right now, you can't.
But can you do it with a foreign?
A lot of people have done, a lot
colleague.
of foreigners done it. Not very many Americans, but a lot of the Swiss, the Spanish, the Italians, the Jamaicans have already bought property there. Raul Castro in the last 3 years has been building condominiums there. When you see Raul Castro building condominiums and golf courses, you know the doors are about to open somewhere.
And what about, Peter, the reports that it's still, many people are complaining that the people in Cuba are still being violated? In Scott Pelley's piece, he said, look, it looks like something's still out of the 1960s, that this is not a good thing.
You know what? When you take a look at the history, whether it's in Myanmar or in Vietnam, when travel and tourism shows up, the doors get completely taken down. It opens up the boundaries and trade flows. And when trade flows, jobs are created. People think, and you've been talking about this morning, a lot of other people, oh, Cuban cigars and rum. Do you know what that is in their GDP? It's nothing. It's travel and tourism. It's their #1 foreign export. And this is a big deal for them.
Speaking of cigars
Yes.
and rum, there are going to be immediate lifting of some of those restrictions, right?
Well, right now, if you're coming back as a licensed traveler in one of these people-to-people visits, you can bring back up to $100 worth of cigars and up to $400 worth of products that are very specifically, delineated in terms of, antiques and coffee. But now, don't buy the cigars just yet.
I don't smoke, so.
Okay.
Thanks, Peter.
You got it.